Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tackling Basketball Podcast. My name is Evan.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Micah.
And we have a pretty exciting episode ahead of us today, talking about NFL prospects, NFL hierarchy, top 10 NBA teams coming out of the All-Star break, and then, of course, trivia and Sportsbook Showdown. But let's jump right into it with Toast and Roast. And I'm actually going to kick things off this week because I never go first. And I don't know. Just wanted to mix things up. So my toast for this week is Paolo Banchero. Looked absolutely amazing in his final game before the All-Star break. Just absolutely dominated. I think put up 38 points, had a lot of assists, a lot of rebounds. And this is kind of just a toast for the entire season. Paolo has been absolutely phenomenal. He's a guy, and our last episode we talked about how, guys in the East are just not as good as guys in the West. He's one of the few first-comers to the All-Star game in the East who I think would have like an actual shot of being in that conversation in the West. Absolutely deserved All-Star appearance. He's been dominant this season. So shout out to Paolo, and let's go Magic, huh?
Yeah. I do think the East probably has more rising stars. Like, you look at the West, and you probably have the higher end rising stars still, and like Anthony Edwards, and of course Victor Wembanyama, Chet. But the East has a lot of like really athletic guys who are going to make a splash in this league, and
because they've had all the crap teams over the past 4 years who have been able to draft the top 5 guys.
You would hope eventually you'd get some good talent.
Yeah.
All right. Micah, over to you for your toast.
Yeah, I'm toasting Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
What? Right? I know. Who on February 15th passed Kelsey Plum to be the leading scorer in women's Division I college basketball. And additionally, with only 99 points away from becoming the leader in both men's and women's D1 college, and with 4 games left in the regular season, she's already averaging almost 33 points a game this season. Should by all means do that, which is just an incredible feat. Also, she's averaging almost 33 points, 7 rebounds, and 8.5 assists. This girl is ridiculous. Just so good. And especially the way that she broke the record. She needed 8 points, I think, and just scored 3 threes in about a minute and a half. And the third one pulling up from the logo to take it. Just incredible. She is so much fun to watch. Such a talent. And assuming she doesn't opt in to like the additional year that she's allowed because of the COVID year, should by all means be going into the WNBA. And that should be incredibly fun to watch. Her and Sabrina and the other massive amounts of talent in there. But
Jesus.
You okay, buddy?
Yeah, she's great. Super entertaining. Full stat line, like you said, super high efficiency. Just like star player.
Yeah.
Super excited to watch her in the WNBA.
I'm excited for her and Sabrina Ionescu's battles because they both play the same position. They're going to be going head to head. They'll be guarding each other and going up against each other. That's going to be a fun watch. Because she's definitely not getting drafted by the Liberty, because I don't think the Liberty are going to wind up with the number 1 overall pick. So.
Did they do the lottery?
No.
I think they do.
Do they?
Yeah, I think they do.
Regardless, it's not going to be the
it's not
Aces or the Liberty.
No.
All right. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, I am toasting the silliness of the All-Star game this year. And I think that this is just something that needs to be embraced more going forward because, let's face it, defense has not been played and will never be played in an All-Star game. The game is taken less seriously than even practices are. But at the same time...
It's taken less seriously than the Pro Bowl.
But at the same time, the game is taken less seriously than practices are. Like, you can have a lot of fun with it, and a lot of the players were having fun with it this year. Like, Luka Doncic hucking a full-court shot so that he could get a 2-for-1 opportunity, and then Jokic telling the coach to bench him for it. Dame hucking half-court shots to help the West catch up, but they went in. The Jokic-Luka bromance just on full display, with them, like, passing to each other down the court so that neither of them ever dribbled once. Jokic asking Tony Brothers for a technical foul because someone bounced a pass off of him. And then to top it all off, too, the announcers reflected this feeling for a lot of the game for the first time in a long time, which I think is huge. Like, so often we see the announcers kind of hype up this event like, oh, it's all the greatest stars, it's all the best talent, it's going to be such a fun, competitive event. But we know that it's not that. So this year, when the announcers sort of took on some of this hilarity, and like I mentioned earlier, Luka like chucked that 3/4 court shot with 38 seconds left in the half, and they basically said, well, yeah, you got to go for the 2-for-1 when it's available. They got what they wanted. They got last possession of the half. And, I mean, we got really lucky in 22 that it was a close game. But that's really rare, and I think that this is the better approach to the All-Star Game. Just get out there, have fun, mess around, and put up a good show for the fans. And I'm pretty happy that we got that.
For sure. Definitely over the last 3 All-Star games, the Luka and Jokic bromance has been one of my favorite things to come out of it. It is so much fun. Any video of them together is an absolute blast, how much they goof off with each other.
Jokic, in his post-game presser, said Luka's a terrible player and he's bad for the league. Oh, man, I just love that.
Yeah. Charles Barkley and Draymond Green on the Altcast, if you heard any of their things, that was all phenomenal, too. Draymond complaining about Indianapolis being a boring city, and Charles Barkley was like, yeah, but at least we're not walking around a bunch of homeless criminals like in San Francisco.
Also, a white G League player once again taking the dunk contest title. Love to see it.
I feel like I'm in a good mood. I don't want to get too far into that, but I think that Mac McClung is discouraging star players from joining the dunk contest because who wants to lose to Mac McClung?
Yeah.
And also, while we're at it, his first dunk of the night, how was that not a 50? That was the best dunk of the day.
Yeah. By 2024, if you do a unique dunk, that should automatically get a 50. Everything's been done. He did something different and fun. And he got like 46s by some of the judges.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, time for your good mood to be over, Jonathan. Now we're going to roast. For me, I'm going with Bayern Munich and Harry Kane. I'll give a quick background on this for people who don't know soccer. So the way that soccer clubs work is essentially you have a certain amount of trophies that you are capable of winning within a season. Generally speaking, you have a national cup trophy, which is like for Bayern Munich, every single team in Germany plays against each other. You have the chance to win that cup. You have the chance to win the cup of your league, which for Bayern, it's Bundesliga, 20 teams, whoever takes first place, you win that cup. And then they have a chance to win the Champions League, UEFA Champions League trophy, which is just if you're a top-tier team, you get in it, and then you have a chance to win Champions League. Going into this year, Bayern Munich has won the past 11 Bundesliga titles. They have won 2 Champions Leagues in the past decade, and they have won their country cup 7 times in the past decade.
Wow.
Roasted.
Harry Kane, this is his first year at Bayern. He was at Tottenham Hotspur before this year, and he is infamous for never winning a single trophy in his life. He is now at Bayern. They were eliminated from Germany's national trophy. They currently sit 8 points back on the table to a team in Bundesliga, and they are on the brink of being eliminated in Champions League. So Harry Kane is a cursed mother effer. You can't win a trophy to save his life. But also the coaching staff at Bayern, their manager needs to be fired. It's bad. But that's tough.
That's great.
Their Bayern Munich going into this year was looked at as like one of the premier football teams in Europe. And now it's like, oh, you guys are good, but like, and yeah, just Harry Kane, that sucks, buddy. You left Tottenham to go win a trophy, and now you're cursing another franchise. That just is brutal. So
I hope they get relegated next year.
That would be freaking crazy.
Does he have the same condition that Harden has, where his play flames out in these stakes, or is it just he can't win based on random
he's always good.
Okay.
He's just really unlucky. All right. Micah, now over to you.
There it is. All right.
It's not Damian Lillard.
It's not Damian Lillard. No. Last episode, I think, Jonathan, you couldn't think of a toast, so you did some not toasts. I'm doing the same. I couldn't think of anyone to roast, so I'm not roasting Damian Lillard, who had a fantastic NBA All-Star weekend, winning the three-point competition in back-to-back years, being the first person to do that since the 07-08 season by everyone's favorite player, Jason Capono. We all know, we all love him.
Oh, yeah.
And Dame took that title from him. And then winning the MVP in the All-Star game, which, even as a massive fan of Dame, kind of wanted it to be Halliburton a little bit. Especially, like, that first quarter when Halliburton hit 5 threes in a row in just no span of time. I was like, oh, he's going to get it. And then I think those 2 half-court shots that Dame made kind of sealed it, along with 39 points on 11 threes. It was just good to see. Like, he's been this is his 8th All-Star, first time getting the honor of being a starter, and then winning championship and MVP. Just really fun to watch for the dude. So,
yeah.
Roasted.
Jimmy Butler roasted.
All right, Jonathan, finish us off.
Yeah, my roast is Jordan Spieth, but more it's the PGA.
I was really hoping it was just going to be Jordan Spieth. That guy has lost so many bets for me. I hate Jordan Spieth.
So, I don't know how many of you saw this, but
I know what you're talking about.
he was disqualified this last weekend from the Genesis Invitational Tournament because he signed an incorrect scorecard. He obviously accidentally wrote down a 3 instead of a 4 on the 4th hole. And it's an event that is live scored by actual people who know what the correct score is. Yeah, I don't know why this rule exists where he also has to write down and keep track. And to add to this situation, he was in 20th place at 3 under, and this was going into the weekend. It was round 2. He double bogeyed the 18th hole, which probably left him frustrated and unfocused. And so when he goes to check his scorecard, he doesn't remember his 4th hole, how that turned out, and he just signs it, gets disqualified for probably the dumbest rule in all of sports.
That is incredibly dumb. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of dumb things in the PGA, just in general. Like, you're not allowed to ask other players what kind of club they just hit.
Yep.
Which, what's the point? The other person could just tell you or not. Why is it not allowed to ask?
They also don't pay you for travel. So it's like if you're an up-and-coming golfer, if you lose at one tournament, you might bankrupt yourself.
Oh, yeah. It's a massive barrier to entry. But also, in what sport are you commanding the players to keep track of what the score is?
Right. Imagine in the NBA, if you got done, and as a player, you had to go down, sit down, and write down your points, assists, rebounds, steals, blocks, and then sign for it. And if you guessed wrong, then they take away all of those stats, and your team lost now.
Yeah, or just like, you shoot a 3, but your toe's on the line. You didn't realize it. I got a 3. And there was like, nope, that's a 2. You're out of here.
God, dude, imagine having to try and keep track of soccer.
And like, it is a gentleman's sport to be sure. Like, at levels under the PGA, where you don't have someone else keeping track of your score, it's up to you to maintain that, to be honest, to get it right.
Oh, yeah.
But there are people watching every single shot, every single move, letting you know what your score is. Like, you don't need to have a physical scorecard anymore.
Shifting over to NFL prospect scouting. This is something Jonathan and I did last year pre-Micah joining the podcast. Welcome, Micah, to this segment.
Thank you.
We essentially go and we each pick a guy to scout, tell you our thoughts, feelings about him, how we think he'll do in the NFL, whatever. Essentially, we're kind of picking not sleepers, but lower tier guys. Like we're not going to scout Marvin Harrison Jr. Everybody knows he's amazing. He's going to be a top 10 pick. No one needs our thoughts and opinions on that, man.
Probably a top 5 pick.
Yeah, exactly. So instead, we're going for guys that are like maybe end of first round, second, third. You're not going to hear. We're not probably going to do guys that are like 6th or 7th rounders, but
it's too much effort.
Yeah, that's a little too deep for us. But kind of end of the first, second round guys. And with that being said, Micah, we'll kick it over to you for your scouting report.
Yeah, I'm starting it off with Bucky Irving. Who in some tables that I saw is projected to be like the 4th running back taken off the board.
But he's got a first-round name.
Round name. Bucky Irving, man. What a name. Running back out of Oregon. Had a phenomenal last 2 seasons with the Ducks. In 22, getting 1,058 rushing yards. 23, almost 1,200 rushing yards. 5 and 11 touchdowns, respectively. He is only 5'10" and 195 pounds, so he's definitely not one of those tanks who's going to come in, get those like 1-yard first downs or get those in goal line rushes, but as someone who, like Devin Achane, the Dolphins rookie running back, can have some massively explosive plays, is really fast, really smart. In those last 2 seasons, averaged more than 6 yards per carry.
Nuts.
Just someone who can come out, do explosive big plays, and on the right team, in the right system, can provide a lot more versatility in the offense. Can also be a receiving threat. Didn't do too much, got a handful of touchdowns, 400 yards in his last season in receiving. But really good, really explosive, and can really open up a lot of options for an offense.
Yeah. Sure, like it. Also, Sko Ducks.
Go Ducks.
Yeah, he was amazing this past year. Was definitely kind of like the big play guy for the Ducks this past season, with the exception of Ty Thompson, their wide receiver, who is also just an absolute beast and is likely going to be a first-round wide receiver. So, all right, for my guy, I'm going with Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina.
Another great name.
Yeah, another great name. 6'1", 223 pounds, so like pretty good size wide receiver. He's towards the bigger end there for receivers in the NFL. Yeah, that's 6'1", yeah, big guy. And currently, I think when I was looking at him, currently projected as like the 10th or 11th, depending on where you looked, wide receiver off the board. So definitely kind of a sleeper guy. Will likely wind up going 2nd, 3rd round, just depending on how many teams feel the need to go and draft a receiver. But there are actually a lot of kind of wide receiver needy teams out there right now. And especially for a guy like this, I'll start with the cons first for him. He does kind of lack quickness at the line of scrimmage. Was definitely a problem for him. He's not going to be a guy that you're using on short routes. He's not going to be that target because people will just be all over him because he just doesn't have that agility. He doesn't have that quick first step to beat guys right off the line.
Struggles in press coverage a little bit as a result.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's also kind of a mediocre route runner. Like he's not going to be breaking guys' ankles. Not going to be doing anything that you're like, wow, holy crap, that was like an incredibly intelligent move. But there are plenty of guys like that in the NFL and plenty of guys who are like that, but very successful. So not necessarily barriers to him as a receiver. Pros, though, because he is big, he is a devastating contested catch threat. And watching his tape, that's exactly what I saw. Contested catches, he almost always came down with them. He uses his size very well. He has great hand-eye coordination to just get to the ball and peel it out of there. Also has very, very good speed, especially on long routes. So it could definitely be a deep ball threat for teams, which as soon as you say that, there are plenty of teams in the NFL. Chargers, Viking, like there are so many teams that would take that guy. Also very, very good at getting yards after catch. Definitely a boldy ball player type of guy. I kind of, not necessarily at the skill level of DK Metcalf, but feels kind of similar, like not necessarily a great route runner, but uses his size and just his boldy ability to get yards and be successful as a wide receiver. And then, of course, with all that being said, as soon as he gets drafted to a team, he could immediately become a serious red zone threat. just with that size and that ability, he would immediately be a potential favorite target for any quarterback. So, again, I think second, third round is probably where he should be going. But also, I think teams could potentially look to pick him a little early because I think he's really good and talented and was probably held back from the fact that he went to South Carolina, kind of a school that no one really paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I see a little George Pickens in him.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun.
For sure. All right, Jonathan, hit us with yours.
Yeah, I'm going with Jalen Polk. ESPN currently ranks him as the number 12 wide receiver in a somewhat shallow class.
Yeah.
Heading out of high school, he was just a 3-star recruit. Went to Texas Tech, then transferred to Washington in his sophomore season, where he played only 3 games. And even this last season, going into it, he was projected to be the number 3 receiver on Washington's team. And he's been the underdog his entire career, and his entire career he has elevated himself to the moment. Sophomore season, he only played 3 games. He had a perfect passer rating from quarterbacks when throwing to him. And he's been north of 120 passer rating in the 2 seasons following. Then you look at his actual analytics here. I'm going to say he starting with a few cons like Evan did. He lacks a little bit of sharp cuts, especially within the first 5 yards. Not the best at beating press coverage as a result. Somewhat underdeveloped route tree, though, like a little bit stronger than most people. He tends to prefer using his top line speed in order to excel in dig routes or verticals and generate some separation there. But that's where the list of negatives end, and I think that those are a lot of things that can very much be improved throughout an NFL career. When I look for something that a lot of people say is just potential, which I do say potential is harder to identify than current talent. You always check current talent first. That's the surefire thing. But when I look for potential in a wide receiver, I look for traits and skills that are rarely taught and hard to develop, such as explosive acceleration, straight line acceleration, a larger build with an extended catch radius. He's 6'2". He has an unmeasured wingspan so far. That'll change as soon as the combine rolls around at the end of February, and I'm guessing it'll be north of 6'2". He's got long arms and the best, I'm talking elite ball tracking, timing, focus, body control, catch instincts. He is the best in the class at these, in my opinion. Nobody is able to time the catch better, have better focus with it, and it just shines so well. I do wish that he was slightly better at controlling his defender. That's something that I look at a little bit more, is the timing of your own pace going into the catch, trying to sort of lay off a little bit so that the defender's forced behind you and you can accelerate at the end to the catch. But I'm not certain he needs that skill set based on everything else. If he has a step on you and a quarterback who can deliver the ball, he's coming down with the ball and he's going to be great. Just amazing fluidity, and I think that this might be a bold take. He has the potential, I don't think I'm going to claim it, he has the potential to even outperform his teammate, who is the number 2 wide receiver based on ESPN, Rome Odunze. Now, I do think that Odunze is a far better athlete, and that we see a lot of those that skill set sort of coming through from him. And there's a good reason why ESPN put him 2. I probably put him 3 overall. But I think that Polk has a huge shot at rising quickly, especially if he has a great performance at the Combine. And we could see him as maybe an early day 2 pick.
It'll be interesting for him to see where he goes, because he's just, like you mentioned, he's never had to be the number 1 in his career and have number 1 wide receiver coverage on him. So it'll be interesting if he goes to a team where he becomes the guy wide receiver wise, or versus if he goes to a team behind some other guy and gets to continue kind of being that number 2 and sliding through a little bit of teams underestimating him and focusing more on somebody else, to see how that shift happens for him,
Yeah, I think that another thing that really helps a player reach their potential is earning the trust of their quarterback early. because you're just going to get more reps that way. And guess what? One of the top things at earning quarterback trust is it's being able to catch a well-thrown ball, being able to time it well, and like get there. If he has that down pat, I think that he earns trust really quickly, secures at least the number 2 wide receiver, unless he goes to like the Dolphins. And he'll have a lot more chances to develop his game throughout the course of the NFL.
What I'll be interested in is to see where does Michael Penix Jr. end up, and if that team then winds up taking a flyer on should we pair a good performing wide receiver at Washington with Penix in the NFL. Because like I could see a team maybe like the Steelers who need both a good quarterback, because let's be honest, Kenny Pickett is not the answer.
Who are, by the way, the current favorite to have Russell Wilson on their roster next year.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So, yeah, interesting enough. But like if they wind up going out and getting Michael Penix, they also need a wide receiver. Could they go out and get Jalen Polk also?
Yeah.
He becomes the number 2 behind George Pickens and immediately has that rapport with a guy like Penix. So that could be something interesting to watch as well in the draft for Polk. All right. And our final NFL thing for the day is NFL hierarchy. Kind of created pyramids here. Some clarifications on it. Obviously, the top of the pyramid is the best of the best team. We all have the Chiefs because duh. Going down the tiers, though, it's same number of teams per tier on the pyramid until we get to the final tier of 8, which is there's just not enough teams to have 8 teams there. And let's be honest, those teams are all garbage anyway, so who cares? Clarification, though, is this is not reading left to right. We're not, like, for my tier 2, I am not necessarily saying the 49ers are better than the Lions. We're just putting them in tier 2, and that's how all the tiers go. We're not actually ordering besides the tiers themselves. So, Micah, kick us off. Pick one team that is higher, or that you have higher than Jonathan and I do, and pick one team that is lower than Jonathan and I have.
Let's see. I mean,
Dolphins.
I do have the Dolphins higher. I've said everything.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Like, they had a horrible end to their season.
Yeah.
But I think they can. I think their whole team is coming back pretty healthy. They had a lot of young players who are going to have more experience now, and Tua stayed healthy the whole time. So I don't know. I don't feel like there's too much to say about them. I did have the Packers lower than both of you, and that one hurt. Because when I started this, I was like, yeah, I'll have Packers pretty high. Because, yeah, I see you, Evan. Packers had a phenomenal end to their season, had a really fun playoff time, whatever. But some of these other teams I just think are better. The Browns are going to have a healthy Deshaun Watson. And they were really good, or they were inconsistent, but pretty solid without him. The Bills are always good and kind of weird. The Texans looked incredible. Cowboys are another one of those teams. Like, I feel like the entire 4th tier for me were just teams that showed signs of being incredible one week and could flounder other weeks. But all of them, to me, just have, I mean, besides the Texans, just have a little bit more experience. I have more faith in them than the Packers. But I also like the Packers more than all those teams, so I hope I'm wrong.
All right, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to look through this. I'm not sure I have a single team lower
You
than
and I
either
literally
of you
have
two
the
do.
exact same bottom 4s.
Yeah. I think technically I have the Rams lower than any of you, and that's the only one that I have lower than both of you.
Yeah.
I don't have any notes on them. I just think that they're not a very complete roster anymore. I think that Stafford is aging, and a lot of their other pieces are as well. Aaron Donald, the most dominant defensive tackle for a decade, is basically done. Like Von Miller is no longer on that team. They just are a much weaker representation of themselves, and I think they outperformed their own talent this year. As for a team I have higher, the Texans had an amazing year backed by a rookie quarterback. Their roster is younger than young, and it's only going to improve on both sides of the ball. I don't doubt that they're going to elevate their play again next year, and they were really high this year. So putting them in the top 6 is probably a bit of a bold take, but I am willing to make that take.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
I'm desperately looking for any team that I have lower than both of you, and I can't.
It's tough to find. Yeah.
Counterpoint to the Texans, at least bouncing off of that. I think the Texans, the one thing that I almost put the Texans in tier 3, but I put them in tier 4 because I think the AFC South will be better than next year than it was this year.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is going to be back for the Colts, so the Colts are going to be a much tougher beat than they were this year. I don't see Jacksonville having the same struggles as they did this year as next year. I think their roster is going to improve through the draft. Doug Peterson has now had a year with his team. I think they're going to be better.
All 5 of us put Jacksonville in tier 5, and I bet you all 3 of us also wanted to put them higher.
Yeah. There were several teams like that. So
I also didn't know what to do with the Bengals for that season.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, Joe Burrow should get healthy, but...
Yeah. The only knock I have against the Bengals is that there's a good chance they lose T. Higgins, which will be huge for their offense. And their O-line still sucks. So the team that I have higher than everybody else, though, is the Lions. I have the Lions above Baltimore, whereas you both have Baltimore in the 2. The thing I have with Baltimore is Baltimore, for me, is almost like if they couldn't win it this year, I'm not sure when they're going to do it. There's a good chance they lose several key free agents this offseason just to cap casualties and the fact that contracts are expiring. So they're kind of an older team to a degree. They also, whereas, I'll get to Lions in a second, but the mistakes they made in the playoffs with game management and stuff, there's no excuse for that from John Harbaugh. The fact that the Ravens got away from their run game when playing in the playoffs doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
that's a rookie mistake that the Ravens shouldn't have made. Whereas on the flip side of that, you have the Lions, who are a very young team, up and coming. They were able to keep Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, who I think is the main reason why Jared Goff has looked as good as he has.
Yeah.
And a knock against the Lions' game plan against the Niners was that they got away from the run game. They also made some questionable game management decisions at the end. That's a new head coach, first time in the playoffs, mistakes. You learn from that and you grow from that. Versus John Harbaugh, what are you doing? And so I just think the Lions have more upside going forward than the Ravens do. In my mind, I think the Lions will be a very competitive team next year. And realistically, they should have beaten the Niners. They should have been the NFC representation of the Super Bowl based off of the first half of that game. In that sense, they were kicking the 49ers' ass. Yeah. And if they had just had some more experience, I think, with playoff situations, they should have put the 49ers away, in which case we would be saying, yeah, the Lions are the NFC team. So, and then, lower, I don't know. I'll just say it.
You have Baltimore lower.
Yeah, I have Baltimore lower for the reasons I explained. And then I guess you have no idea how badly I wanted to put the Bears in the 8th tier. It pained my soul to sit there and say, I just can't do it. And honestly, I think the only reason I couldn't put them in 8th is because they have the 101. Yeah. If they didn't have the 101, I think they would have been 8th for me. Just because
I agree.
They are a dumpster fire of an organization. The fact that Matt Eberflus is still the coach is okay, so you guys don't care about winning. I also just there's no part of that team that actually impresses me. DJ Moore is good, but I don't think I would put DJ Moore in the top 10 of wide receivers in the league. Justin Fields is okay, but even if you go get Caleb Williams, that's a risk in and of itself. So there's no facet for the Bears that's wow, you're amazing. But they have the 101. All the teams below them, dog crap. So
do you think they should trade the 101 and stick with Fields and get better everywhere else?
I think I would probably take Caleb Williams, even though I have reservations about him just because his attitude just seems off to me. He just doesn't seem like a good leader. And those are skills that it's hard to teach, but his physical talent is so incredible. I would risk it on him. Also because Justin Fields has complained in the past about playing in cold weather and like use that as an excuse for poor performance. And it's like, okay, you're in Chicago. That's not going to change. like unless they decide to add a dome to Soldier Field, which Soldier Field is like Lambeau. You're not putting a dome on that thing because fans would riot if you took away the snow advantage in the winter. So I think you ship Justin Fields to Atlanta, and I think that would be good for Atlanta. I think Atlanta should take that risk. Desmond Ridder is not the answer. Take Caleb Williams and see what happens. I mean, hopefully he works out for him. Obviously, as a Packers fan, I hope he sucks. But as the Chicago Bears, I think that's your best option as a franchise.
Yeah, I agree. You take Caleb Williams unless you're offered 3 firsts and so we'll see what happens. But I will say that I'm not certain about the Lions next year. I still have questions. I think that you made a good point that like Ben Johnson is a rookie OC and has potential to elevate his game. I also think that he outperformed his talent with a little bit of almost trickery that comes from just having a newer system that no one else has been able to see yet and figure out. And I think that people will start to figure it out. And I think that we saw a lot of cracks in Goff this year, which isn't a hot take because he's not a top tier quarterback. But even during that NFC Championship game, I mean, how many of those balls were delivered to wide receivers who found themselves wide open because of scheming, and the ball was delivered way off their pace, or like even in the reach of a defender that wide receivers were either able to make a good play on, or the Lions got a little bit lucky. And I do worry about their future as a result.
Yeah, that is fair. And I feel like I know a lot of teams that when you look at the teams that should be winning Super Bowls, it's usually like you need a great quarterback. I feel like the 49ers and the Lions are like the exception to that to a degree. Because you look at the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is incredible.
Elite.
Sam Laporta is quickly becoming one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery might be the most devastating backfield pairing in the NFL. Yeah. Especially with Jahmyr Gibbs not being used to his full potential this past year.
He was the backup the entire year.
He kept getting hurt, to be fair.
But yes, but also...
okay, but that means for this next season, now they can say, now let's uncork Jahmyr. Yeah. And Jameson Williams was out for the majority of the season, didn't have the chance to build that rapport, and now Goff is going to have Jameson Williams as a threat to pair with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, like, there's so much going on around Goff of, like, just elite talent that can make up for Goff's efficiencies. And also, to be fair, Goff is still a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Like, he's not great, but he's also nowhere near bad. Like, he is a very serviceable quarterback. So, but it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out for sure. And it'll also be interesting, I think we'll plan on, I don't know how often we'll actually feel the need to do this, but probably after the draft, maybe we'll do this pyramid again and just kind of see how it shakes out as we get closer to the season of how it ebbs and flows. But yeah, Kansas City at 1. They supposedly sucked this year, and they won the frickin' Super Bowl.
I mean, they won it without a single wide receiver. They will have many opportunities to address that this year.
Yeah, they just won, and they're not getting worse.
Their defense will improve. They're young, and they're getting better. Their offense has plenty of chances this offseason to improve. I think that if they fail to address the wide receiver position, I might drop them down to 2, but I feel like it's going to be easy for them to do so.
Yeah. Well, and even then, Rashee Rice was showing signs of being phenomenal. So, he could become their easy one next year. All right.
So, I'll shout out the Packers really quickly since you don't feel motivated to do so. We both put them in Tier 4, which is a little bit crazy. We all put them in Tier 4, right?
Yeah.
No, Micah. They share a story with the Texans in many ways, I think. They have a first-year quarterback and a really young team, especially on offense, who is only going to improve. Like, the youngest wide receiver core in the history of the NFL. Is that right?
Yep.
And a defense who is very talented and underperformed last year because of bad coaching.
Bad coaching and just injuries. Yeah.
Bad coaching, injuries. I think they're going to get better in every facet of the game next year, and they were already really good.
Yeah, so. And they Jair Alexander was out for much of last year, and he's top 5, top 10 corner in the league, and he just signed an extension too. So that's awesome for the Packers. But yeah, Them and the Texans are both interesting. I feel like the Packers are probably like talent-wise ahead of the Texans to a degree, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. Texans are a good draft away from being right there as well. They can just give, I think, Stroud one more wide receiver and maybe an upgrade at tight end.
I'm not sure they need another wide receiver. Nico Collins and Tank Dell shocked the world last year. And I think a lot of that was because of Stroud, but...
They did, but almost to a degree. I love what the Packers are doing where they just have 4 or 5 guys who are all just good and like are just all threats on an even playing field essentially. And as a defense, you're like, who the hell? Who do we cover? And what I love what LaFleur did with that is that like he would have plays where it was essentially the exact same routes, but he would just essentially change who your first read is. Which, as a defense, that screws you over a lot because you put your number one corner on the guy and you don't know whether that's the first read or the fourth read. And that, as a defense, can mess you up a lot. So
I'm seeing a lot of keyboard heroes right now going to town on the Chiefs are evidence that you don't need a number one wide receiver.
Yes, you do.
And I think that is a horrible take. First of all, the Chiefs won in spite of that because of Patrick Mahomes
and Andy Reid.
And Travis Kelce, 3 of the best people in the industry. Second of all, look at all of the teams around them. Yeah. The 49ers have Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback and fucking like Ayuk and Debo at wide receiver. You have the Ravens, who continually invest in wide receiver talent a little bit poorly, but I do think Zay Flowers is a huge breakout. You have the Lions with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Josh Reynolds and another mediocre quarterback. You have the Green Bay Packers, who have been investing so heavily into wide receiver, and all of these teams are elevating themselves because of that.
I was going to say, don't you dare call Jordan Love a mediocre quarterback.
I won't go that far yet. But
Jordan Love's not home.
But I mean, wide receiver is such a critically important role in this league, and I think that's almost more of a testament to the talent that took Kansas City to the top because... Holy shit.
For sure.
Kadarius Toney. You won a Super Bowl with Kadarius Toney.
All right, shifting now from the NFL to the NBA. Micah, back into your wheelhouse. Sorry, started there. All right, so we're doing the top 10 NBA teams right now, and these are not a power ranking. This is not the top 10 hottest teams coming out of the All-Star break. These are our top 10 title contenders, the top 10 teams we believe can actually go and win an NBA Finals. And a lot of agreement here. Pretty much the same exact group of teams, just in slightly different places. We all agree on the Boston Celtics, so we probably don't even need to talk about that. But Jonathan, start us off. Hit us with your higher than others and your lower than others.
Higher than others is the Denver Nuggets here, I think. And like shockingly to me, you look at the layout of the West this year, and a 3 or 4 seed may almost have a better time in the West than a 1 or 2 seed. That is, if you're not the Denver Nuggets. Home court advantage is not to be underestimated. They have the best home court advantage in the league, and I think that they should strive to increase their position in the regular season as much as they can. And like this playoffs is going to be harder. Let's be honest. There's a lot of increased talent in the West, and you're probably getting the Celtics out of the East. It's going to be a tough run for them. But at the same time, they were the champions last year. They've proven enough to me to be number 2 overall. And even over these last few weeks in the regular season where a lot of people have dropped them, I've been watching every game, and I'm telling you, when they aren't sleepwalking, they take control of a game against any opponent in the league. Like you saw it when they were tied with the Lakers with 2 minutes left in the game. With a minute 20 left in the game, they were up by 10 and high-fiving because they cared again. It's a dominant top 5, and when you shrink your playoff rotation so that your bench matters a little bit less, the Denver Nuggets elevate themselves to a point where I think they're still the team to beat in the West.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I put them at 4, and it felt wrong to do so by all means, because they did just win in such an easy fashion.
4
last
losses
season.
in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely absurd. And I think I'm overreacting to them kind of phoning in this regular season because they just won. They obviously don't care as much. But I've watched a lot of their games, and so many of them, pretty much any game they have against a good team, they're not playing that well. At least the ones that I'm seeing. I'm sure you obviously watch every game. You have a better grasp of it. But the way I see it is like, they're not playing near as well as they were last season. Again, probably just phoning it in. They have the talent. They can easily win again. But at the same time, all of these other teams, to me, are so much better than they were last season. Celtics have improved. I believe the Bucks will improve by the end of the season. Minnesota has been incredible this season. The Clippers have started to look fantastic. I think there's going to be a lot more pressure going in for Denver. And I think some of these teams are going to be better. Mainly the Bucks, who I don't know if we want to talk about them right now, but I have a lot to say about them.
Yeah, if we can talk about them, but I was just going to jump into the Nuggets. The reason I have them at 3 is I also feel like we're seeing those ticky-tacky injuries that, like, I feel like the Nuggets were known for up until last year, where, like, last year was, like, this year where they, like, miraculously just completely stayed healthy, which, great for them. When they're healthy, they're probably the best team in the NBA.
Absurd. Yeah.
But the tough part is that guys like Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, just so many guys on the Nuggets have a history of just getting those nagging injuries and of just consistent injury history. And as good as Jokic is, he can't do things by himself. And so I think that's like the one thing that concerns me a little bit with the Nuggets is that, and that was a worry for me going into this season, was like, can the Nuggets stay healthy again? Because if they can, holy crap, they're going to beat everybody. But if they can't, it's going to become a problem. And I mean, just like any team. But the Nuggets just have a history of being hurt. So
I also think my counter to the top talent argument that you just gave, Micah, is, and I couldn't find this stat quick enough, but I believe it was versus the Rockets, Jazz, and Kings. The Nuggets are something like 2-10 this season. They sleepwalk, and I'm going to counter my own point here.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
I was going to say, I was like, this is helping your argument?
Well, first of all, I think that sleepwalking is somewhat of an excuse for why their record is worse than it could have been. But second of all, that's why I have elevated the Clippers more than I expected to on this list. It's because the Clippers this season are being forced to actually play more games for their players. The resting rules have changed. The individual awards rules have changed, all leading to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard playing more games. And I think their main problem over the last few seasons is that they haven't been able to build up chemistry in the regular season.
Yeah.
Now they are building that chemistry. Now they have a chance to elevate their game in the playoffs, and that becomes more scary. So I do think that the Nuggets need to wake up, but I don't really necessarily doubt that they will. They've always been a strong competitor in the regular season, and I think that post-All-Star break, they've always been sleepy pre-All-Star break too. I think post-All-Star break, they're going to wake up a little bit. They're going to take the reins back, and I think they are the most likely team in the West and the second most likely overall to take home the chip.
Yeah, I like it. To the Bucks now, Micah. I think really the only barrier for the Bucks to me is their coaching situation. I mean, they have their talent is absolutely insane, especially now adding Patrick Beverley and Danilo Gallinari, both guys who are going to be very good for them. Patrick Beverley off the bench is like the perfect leader of that second unit there for the Bucks. Yeah. Gallinari is a great second unit guy, or you can slot him
Patrick
in.
Beverley,
I know.
He's
He told me to. It pains me that he's on the team with Dame.
But if the Bucks can just get over that coaching situation, they have the talent to go toe-to-toe with anybody. I think the Celtics are above them because the Celtics also have that talent, and their coaching structure is great. Yeah. So the Bucks will definitely be interesting to see how they do down the stretch. They're another team, though, that it's like no matter where you are, like they could wind up with the 8 seed, and you would still be absolutely freaking terrified of the Bucks come playoffs
for sure.
because you're like, oh, they coasted in the regular season, and now Dame and Giannis are like, time to go, bitches.
Yeah, the thing with the Bucks for me, I think it's really easy to be like worried about them right now with their record with Doc Rivers, but at the same time, the thing that I look at is their defense with Doc Rivers is really good.
Yeah.
Like, that was what they were struggling with Griffin, and they've solved that to the detriment of the offense. But that, like, defense was the thing that you were worried about.
Yeah.
Swapping Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. Like, obviously that's going to tank. And the fact that they fixed that, I'm not worried about Giannis and Dame figuring out how to play together.
Yeah.
They're two of the best offensive players in the league right now. And then, like you said, adding Patrick Beverley is going to be great for their defense. Middleton, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez can stretch the floor a ton. Like, I'm not worried about their offense. Like you said, they just need to get their coaching figured out.
Yep.
And I think they will. Doc Rivers, I think, is good enough with this amount of talent to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, like you said, all those guys just getting used to the offensive system that Doc has put in place. And I wouldn't be surprised if Doc came in with the idea of, like, defense first. Like, let's figure out the defense. The offense will come, like you said, again, you're Giannis Antetokounmpo and you're Damian Lillard. Once we actually pay attention to it, you guys will start scoring. Like, it's not going to be a problem. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that new roster, new coach, they're going to get better. They're going to figure some things out. I do still worry about their defense.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday is a huge loss on that end.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's the best defensive guard in the league.
Yeah. Patrick Beverley is a great add at the trade deadline. Doesn't make up the difference. I do worry about their defense when they get into playoff rotations, when they are up against other teams' playoff rotations. But I don't doubt that they can elevate their game from the regular season. They're currently the 3 seed, I think, still. Unless they slipped all the way to 4.
No, I think they're just behind the Cavs.
Yeah.
They're above the Knicks.
But I still see them as the second best team in the East, and
it'll be interesting, too, come playoffs if Doc Rivers, for defensive sake, decides to go with the starting 5 of Brook, Giannis, move Middleton to the 3, and then go Dame and Beverly almost as like small ball backcourt, purely to have Beverly there to guard like the all-star point guard kind of player.
Yeah.
And then have Dame be your offensive point guard, essentially.
I mean, it depends on who you're facing. Like, if you're up against the Knicks, 100%. Yeah. Get Beverly to guard Brunson, and Dame can cover whoever their 2 is. But, like, when you get to, like, the Celtics...
Yeah, you
it's
can't
like,
do that.
You can't do it.
But, yeah, it depends on the team. But, like, again, adding Beverly and Gallinari...
Danilo Gallinari.
Like, that just gives Doc Rivers more options to tinker with the starting 5 and, like, create the best unit he can put out there. So, quickly, I'll call out for me. You both have the 76ers up here. I have the Dallas Mavericks instead. For me, I just think without Embiid... We have no idea what the timetable is on Joel for the Sixers. Yeah. Without Embiid, I just don't see the Sixers being able to compete for a title. So I have a feeling you guys are fully dependent on Joel Embiid coming back.
That's why I put them at 10.
And the thing is, the injury he has for a big man, like I get they want to win this year, but you also cannot bring him back too early. And this is an injury that it's gonna take him a long time to recover. And there's just a mindset of like, okay, we're in the playoffs. It's the first round of playoffs. He's technically medically cleared, but he's only at 70%. Do we push it? Like, do we push it and risk him messing himself up beyond repair or hurting himself so that he's even out at the beginning of next season? Or do we just sit him and hope for the best? Like, so that's my only thing with the Sixers. And even if he does come back, he will have been out for so long, he can just be out of rhythm. There's just so many things going against the Sixers that I put him out. Whereas the Mavericks, I can't bet against Luka. Luka is just nuts. I think getting Grant Williams out, based off of all the reports we got from a culture perspective, is going to do wonders for the Mavericks. Everybody seemed to hate Grant Williams, which is hilarious to me. But Kyrie Irving has been showing flashes of like his former self this year. And
Kyrie's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And he doesn't even need to be the best player because they got Luka. So I throw the Mavs in there. again, they're the 10th team in my mind who can make it, but yeah.
But no, I got to number 10, and it was between Mavericks and Philly for me. And I purely said, if Embiid comes back, what they did before he got injured was absolutely absurd. That I felt like I had to include them just in case. But also, like you were saying with the Mavericks, Derek Lively, too, as their center as a rookie.
So glad I drafted that guy in fantasy. Let's go.
Crap. I feel like he's like the most underrated rookie right now.
Yeah.
He's doing so much for the Mavericks, and they're looking great with him playing. And as a rookie, like, defense and just a big man was the thing that they've been missing the last couple of years. Give him a year or two, this Mavericks team is going to be finally probably a serious contender, which Luka deserves because it's Luka.
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
Ridiculous.
We need to see Luka in the finals.
Yeah.
It was so hard for me to pick my 10th team. I think the 76ers earned it for me the 8th spot for me, largely because of articles that I was reading say that for the average person, his injury is a 1-month issue. And that if they stretch it out long enough, he might be like more healthy than he normally is for playoffs. And he normally like declines a lot in postseasons. Potentially that's a health issue. So if he's gotten a lot of time off leading up to it, potentially we see them rise. All of those potentials are why they're no higher than 8th.
Yeah.
But also why I couldn't not include them in my top 10. As for like the 10th overall, the Mavericks, great argument. I think even the Knicks, the Pelicans, the Pacers all have great arguments to be here.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I went with the Thunder here. It's slightly lower than you guys, and so I might have to explain why it's lower, which was a little bit surprising to me. And I think that is... I'm not convinced they have a lot left to give beyond what we've seen in the regular season.
That's fair.
Their regular season has been absolutely tremendous. This team is great. But I also think they've shown all of their cards. They are a team that is playing really hard, really well, really together. And I think that they can't elevate much beyond that. I do think that they will still be a problem for people in the playoffs. I do think that every team needs to consider them as a serious threat. But I also think we've seen all that we will. And that it is not enough for these teams above them. If the teams above them do count them as a serious threat and take them seriously, then I think every one of these teams should beat them.
Sure.
I 100% agree with everything you said. I have a line right in between 7 and 8 of I won't be surprised if they win it all, and I will be surprised if they win it all.
For sure.
And OKC toes that line. They just have no real playoff experience. I fully anticipate next season, if they make some moves and have some experience, Shy Guy gets a round or two in the playoffs, that they can be serious threats. Right now, they're just kind of a fun, good team.
They're so fun. Enjoy it.
Yeah. But I don't think Miami's doing it this year, even though they made the finals. They just haven't been near as good. Terry Rozier hasn't done much since the trade. It's still early, but...
They've also elevated their defense every single year in the playoffs so much, which is why I can't count them out.
Yeah.
We
all have them at 9.
They're at 9, but I can't count them out.
Yeah.
I probably draw my line between 9 and 10, honestly. I'm not sure I would say I would think that the Sixers or the Heat could win it all, and I wouldn't be shocked, but they could make the finals, and I wouldn't be shocked. They could have a deep run, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys want to talk about the Clippers at all, or are they just, if they're healthy, they're...
I think I already mentioned most of my points on them. Yeah. I think that they have been sleepwalking through the regular season the last 3 years, and this year they're not doing that, and I think that's a huge advantage to them.
Yeah.
I think that they have a great chance to sort of show off some of the chemistry that they've been building, and that they are a serious threat because of that. I do worry a little bit for the same reason that they've shown that they've fallen off the last few years in playoffs, that they are not as laser focused as these other teams, but I think they have a good chance to knock some of this that baggage this year.
I would also be worried about the fact that when was the last time that Kawhi and Paul George played this much basketball during the regular season. It's been a minute for the two of them. So when it comes to the playoffs, I mean, I have concerns about the fact that they'll just be flat out exhausted by the time they get to the postseason this go around. But yeah, I mean, they're still a deadly team. I mean, for me, it's weird. Again, I know we're ranking them based off of who we think, but I think I'm similar to you, Micah. I think around that 7 to 8 or maybe 6 to 7, somewhere in there, I draw the line of okay, all these teams above that line are more or less kind of on the same playing field of I think any of these teams could win it, and I wouldn't be sitting here WTF.
Yeah.
So with that said, if the Clippers were able to win it all this year, hey, they have the roster to do it for sure. It's just a matter of can they finally put it together. And I'm hesitant, but I also think Paul George as a whole has historically struggled in the playoffs. Not struggled, but he hasn't. Yeah, struggle is not the right word. He hasn't risen to the occasion. That's for sure. You don't see Paul George getting into the playoffs and just playing better than he ever does.
I mean, he did, is that 2021 when they made the conference finals? He was playing ridiculously well, and that was
with the
him.
Thunder?
No, with the Clippers.
Oh, with the Clippers, yeah.
Yeah, it was his first season there, I think.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He was the one that led them there. Yeah. Obviously, that was the one time that I could see that. But Kawhi has been playing the best as he's played since Toronto. Harden has been looking really nice. Russ is accepting that bench role.
Russ has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Russ has been...
I'm not sure I've ever sang his praises. He's been amazing this year.
Yeah. So. And then I just want to say their name. The Cavs are looking great.
Yep.
They started to look phenomenal before Mobley and Garland came back from injury.
Yeah.
And now that they're back, holy shit.
Yeah, for sure.
They're looking really good.
I think the thing that holds them back for me is kind of similar to what holds the Thunder back for you, Jonathan. It's just experience. Realistically, Donovan Mitchell's the only guy on that team with true playoff experience and a guy that when it comes time to playoffs, he can perform.
Yeah. The
rest of the team is just so young that it'll be interesting to see how they do once they get into playoffs, because the Cavs will make playoffs. But yeah, they are a phenomenal team, very well coached, kind of an underrated team. Even they're the number 2 team in the East, and I still think people aren't giving them enough credit, honestly. And so they're a fun team to watch. It would be, imagine Thunder, Cavs, NBA Finals, just young against young. Holy crap!
I would love to see
that would be nuts. All right, though, let's shift over to NBA trade deadline deals. And we are 2 weeks late to this. Sorry, everybody. But it's fine. We did whittle it down to a total of 8 trades because we don't need to go over every single trade because there are just so many trades that in the grand scheme of the NBA don't matter. But we'll start out with the first one here. I'll read through it, and we'll just kind of give our general grades, thoughts, and move along. Shouldn't take too long per trade, but... First one is a 3-team deal with the Philadelphia 76ers acquiring Buddy Hield via the Pacers. The Pacers receiving Furkan Korkmaz from the Sixers, Doug McDermott from the Spurs, 2024 second-round pick via the Raptors, 2029 second-round pick via the Blazers, and then cash considerations from the Sixers. And the Spurs receiving Marcus Morris from the Sixers, 2029 second-round pick from the Clippers, and cash considerations. Micah, what you think of this deal?
I like it the most for Indiana.
Yeah.
They're a young team who's showing a lot of promise and just getting some more.
Let's be real. Whoever gets Doug McDermott is the winner of this entire trade.
It's Doug McDermott plus cash consideration.
Yeah, come on.
You can't scoff at cash.
No, I think it was 4 years ago. The Blazers traded someone for cash considerations, and their Twitter team just put a pile of cash in a Blazers jersey. It was welcome cash considerations. Happy to have you. So funny. But I mean, I like it for Philly getting Buddy Hield as a nice, just wing shooter. I mean, obviously you need to have Embiid healthy for anything to matter. But I think it's good for them. I don't fully see what San Antonio's doing.
This definitely feels like we'll take an expiring contract, get rid of some dead money, and then get a set. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, but just for a second.
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't know.
In 2029, like that's so far away. You should be trying to get picks right now for Wemby.
Yeah.
So
Even for me, the Sixers tradition, like Buddy Hield's great. I like Buddy Hield a lot.
Buddy Hield.
Like I feel like the Sixers kind of already have Buddy Hield, but like better versions of Buddy Hield on their team.
Talking about Poppy.
Poppy, and they have Tobias Harris, who I kind of see as just like a slightly bigger Buddy Hield almost. Like I don't
Not as good of a shooter, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
like production wise,
Yeah.
Buddy Hield. So I like sure it's good for the Sixers, but also like I don't know, like if you get Embiid back come playoff time, I'm just not sure where I see Buddy Hield fitting into that chemistry mix to a certain extent. I don't know.
I think
that's just me.
I think he's a better shooter than Kelly Oubre. So just having someone, because obviously Embiid and Maxey are going to take all of the attention.
Yeah.
Just having someone who you can reliably kick it out to for three, like that is Buddy Hield. That's who.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Indiana Pacers in my mind are coming out with like the biggest win out of this.
This one was shockingly boring to me.
Yeah. Fair. In that case, on to the next one. For this one, the Phoenix Suns receive Royce O'Neal from the Nets and David Roddy, never heard of this man in my life, from the Grizzlies. Grizzlies receive 2026 first-round pick swap from the Suns. Chimizi Mutu, I'm so sorry, from the Suns, and then Yuta Watanabe from the Suns. Nets receiving Keita Bates-Diop from the Suns.
Just fucking nailed Yuta Watanabe right after saying, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce Chimpanzee.
Yuta Watanabe
Because who doesn't love Utah?
Great, good point. But
Yuta Watanabe is a Japanese name, and I'm a baseball fan. Lots of Japanese. You learn how to say that crap. Brooklyn Nets receive Keita Bates-Diop from the Suns, Jordan Goodwin from the Suns, draft rights to Vanja Marinkovic from the Grizzlies, and 3 future second-round picks. Jonathan, what do you think of this?
It's Vanja Marinkovic. I know Serbian names, or like Baltic names. Also, this one was also a little bit weird to me. It feels almost desperate to me from both the Suns and the Grizzlies. Like, from the Suns' perspective, they're like, bench depth, oh shit. We need to like split some assets, get a couple of guys who might be able to contribute off the bench in the playoffs.
Big body Roddy.
Except they won't. You're going to drop down to a 7-man rotation in the playoffs, and neither of these guys are going to see the light of day. Similarly, the Memphis Grizzlies are sort of acting out of desperation of like, shit, our top 2 players are both injured right now for significant periods of time. What are we going to do? I don't know. Get a first-round pick swap, except it's not going to vest because it's a like soon swap from the Suns.
Yeah.
I say like the Nets almost a little mundane, but also I think they're the clear winner here.
I mean, they're
KBD, I really like. Goodwin has some good upside.
And they should be rebuilding, get some draft picks.
Yeah.
They're the only ones who's like, yeah, you're doing what you should be doing. The only thing that stands out to me is I'm surprised that Phoenix traded Utah Watanabe.
Yeah,
because
me
I
too.
know KD really likes him from their time in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's okay. But besides that, I don't think any of this has any true impact on anything.
Yeah.
The big swap is maybe the funniest part of this to
The
me.
big swap is hilarious. I mean, I get Memphis had a really good seed last year when they were fully healthy, and maybe they're betting on themselves to do it by 2026.
Or maybe they're betting on a Suns collapse by 26.
Which I don't think is...
I don't know. KD has won it out of so many teams. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Like, Houston is going to be fantastic with all of their picks that they... all the picks that they got from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they're taking a gamble, and it's not necessarily a bad one if things go right.
Yeah.
But
All right.
also probably won't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, best case scenario, I feel like they improve their first round pick by like 5.
Yeah.
Which, best case scenario, it's still a mid to late pick.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
All right. to the next one. This one, Oklahoma City Thunder receive Gordon Hayward. The Charlotte Hornets receive Vasily Mikic, Trey Mann, Davis Bertans, 2024 second-round pick via the Rockets, and a 2025 second-round pick via the 76ers. My initial reaction to this was like, both teams are probably doing what they should be doing. OKC adding a good veteran presence, and the Hornets just getting other guys and draft picks for Gordon. So
I agree.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It's like Thunder sacrificed a little bit of chemistry for a higher tier talent.
yeah.
This kind of coincides with the Thunder trade that we'll talk about later, but I feel like the Thunder are realizing that they have split their assets a little bit too far and need to coalesce them a little bit more. Yeah. So I don't hate it. It's just not super significant anymore. Like 3 years ago, this would have been holy shit. But
I mean, Gordon Hayward has been doing pretty good this season for Charlotte. A lot better than he has the last couple of seasons. Really, ever since his injury in Boston. This is the best he's looked. I appreciate the Thunder doing something. Like, obviously, this is not an all-in move, which they could do. I don't think now's the right time to do that. So, I do like they're just improving, getting some veteran experience, because they are going to go into the playoffs and want that.
Yep.
And then Hornets, thank you for finally doing something that makes sense and just getting draft picks and young talent. That's all you should be doing right now. You're so bad.
All right, to the next one. Another two-way trade. The Knicks receive Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic. The Detroit Pistons receive Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, Ryan Arciacono, 2 future second-round picks, and cash consideration.
Love it.
I feel like
best player in the league.
I feel like pretty balanced trade. Again, like I feel like this makes total sense. Mother of God. I feel like this makes total sense for the New York Knicks. I like Burks and Bogdanovic adding to that roster. I think this will make that team a lot better, especially improve. I think Alec Burks will likely play with the second unit, which will be perfect for them. And then the Pistons, just expiring contracts, couple of picks, clearing some cap space to try and sign people. Probably also the general manager going, we are the worst team in the league. What are we doing wrong? So maybe Bojan and Alec went to the front office and was like, please trade us somewhere else. So
yeah, it reminds me of the Game of Zones episode with Brooklyn and everyone prayed that they were the person being traded. And I think it was Bojan Bogdanovic that got traded away. But no, I really like this for the Knicks. They're looking really good and have made trades this season to improve that. Yeah, Pistons, do whatever you want. Did the Blazers have Ryan Arcidiacono last season?
Maybe at one point, yeah.
I remember we had someone last season or 2 seasons ago that had an Italian name, and I just called him Arrivederci because I couldn't be bothered.
I love it.
I feel like it was him. But yeah, Blazer legend right there.
All right, for the next one, we got Brooklyn Nets and Raptors trade. Brooklyn receiving Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young. Toronto Raptors receiving Spencer Dinwiddie. In my personal opinion, this just receives the biggest shrug of all time of just like, okay.
Never leave a Schroeder open.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a shrug.
If anything, I'm surprised by the Nets. I feel like Dennis Schroeder isn't the person that you need right now. You're not good. You should go young. You don't need a veteran point guard for where you're at right now. I would have. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie's kind of in the same camp of. I don't know what they're doing. Who cares?
All right, next one. We've already chatted about this a little bit. Milwaukee Bucks receiving Patrick Beverley. 76ers getting Cameron Payne in a 2027 second-round pick. Like we said, Patrick Beverley is going to be great for the Bucks. This is exactly the type of guy they needed. And the Sixers, I think they got fair return on Beverley. I like Cam Payne. He's a decent second-unit guy. So.
Yeah, he's a good share.
All right, cool. All right, Jonathan has to chat about this one since he's the one that wanted it added to the agenda. The Dallas Mavericks receive a 2024 first-round pick, and the Oklahoma City Thunder receive a 2028 first-round pick swap via the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I said I would come back to this. The Thunder, I think, are brilliantly realizing some mistakes that they've made over the last few seasons in the trade market, in that owning 4 first-round picks in a single year has diminishing returns on value. Like, you look at their scouting department especially, and it has been legitimately amazing these last few years. They have been able to find underrated talent throughout the draft. And so when you have 4 first-round picks, you're going to run out of underrated talent by the time you get to that 4th one. So I think that this was a good example of them sort of course-correcting a little bit, while the Mavs take advantage of them being like needing to course correct. So the Mavericks get a first-round pick in this draft that, by the way, is a tradable asset under the Rooney rule, or the Steppen rule.
I was going to say wrong sport.
Way wrong. Because this draft pick will be black, so they can trade it under the Rooney rule. No, they get a draft pick this year that is tradable. And the Thunder, meanwhile, are acquiring a pick that has a chance of mattering more than this pick. So I think that both teams made a good decision here. It's one of these sorts of trades that looks really mundane from the outside, but I think shows a lot about both franchises and like the leadership behind them.
I mean, I don't think it takes much for the Mavericks to say, oh, yeah, I'll take a first-round pick this year for a swap later down the road.
It takes enough because, I mean, I don't know for sure if the Thunder initiated this deal. If they did, then I'm guessing a team other than the Mavericks is the one to get this.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And the Thunder also aptly agreed.
Yeah. Good point.
Cool. All right, final one. Dallas Mavericks receive P.J. Washington, 2024 second, 2028 second, and the Hornets receive Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 first. Micah, what's your take?
I really like P.J. Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that he's out of Charlotte. And, I mean, I don't think he by any means will be a huge asset for Dallas, who has significant talent outside of him. But I do think it's a good get for them. As far as the Hornets go, it's cool to see Seth Curry there rocking his dad's number in Charlotte.
Yeah.
In his first game, Del Curry does a lot of the sideline reporting and play-by-play analysis. And when Seth Curry first got checked in, he was like, "Oh, I know that guy." But both of them have talked about how special that is for them. Like Seth, like growing up in Charlotte, getting to wear his dad's number. That is really cool. I don't think that's going to be significant for the Hornets as an NBA organization. Grant Williams, I mean, he's solid.
Other than his chemistry issues, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure the Charlotte fan base was hoping that it would be a different Curry wearing Dell's number in there in Charlotte. But, you'll take what you can get. Seth is still a good piece. He's a guy, honestly, if Seth were to come back to the Blazers, I'd be perfectly okay with that. I like
He's
Seth
so
Curry
underrated.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a great
sure
shooter.
He's a little bit of a liability on defense, but not nearly enough to say that he's disqualified from your lineup. And at the same time, he is so well adjusted to his role within the offense. He will never try to take over a play that he shouldn't, and he will hit shots that he should.
Yeah.
So especially having him on the Blazers made me appreciate him.
Oh, yeah,
I was always higher on him than a lot of people, especially when he was in Dallas for 2 separate stints. But actually watching him play every day, he plays the right way, and he's a very, very solid shooter.
All right, well, that wraps up the NBA trade deadline. Now over to trivia. I currently sit at 7, Jonathan at 4, Micah at 3. Micah hoping to battle it back here. And Jonathan has promised Micah and I that this will be the most stressful trivia that we have ever encountered in our lives. He has even said that he himself will be stressed out running this trivia. So I am very interested to see how this is going to turn out. Jonathan, take it away as he walks away from the microphone. Hello, everybody. We'll keep talking here.
And now an advertisement from our sponsor, Lyft.
Jonathan's
you
driving.
need a ride, take a Lyft.
That's not a sponsor.
How great would that be if that was an actual paid sponsorship?
Okay.
All right, take 2. Jonathan, take it away.
Yeah, so I don't have an official title for this trivia section, but
Lazy
I
ass.
think I'm going to call it rhythm of sports. Effectively, I'm going to pose to you guys a category that has many things that fit within it, and you will alternate saying new correct answers to that category.
Love it.
The slides that I have will count down 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Repeating forever, and you will alternate answering questions. Neither one of you earns points until the other person is out. At which point, I will tell the other person, run the table, which is your cue to answer every single time that go comes up, and you will score for every single answer you give.
Okay.
If you fail to begin your answer before 3 hits the clock, or if you don't finish your answer before 2, you are eliminated for that round. I will say, however, if you accidentally give a correct answer that's a little bit late, the other person can't then take that answer for a free point.
Fair enough.
Another couple of clarifiers. If a team or player would appear multiple times on the list, they're only counted once. For example, if I said top 10 single season assists, you don't get to alternate saying John Stockton until one of you gets cold feet because maybe he didn't play for 10 years. Secondly, if a team moved cities or changed names, their statistics from previous cities and names do count.
Yeah.
Please try to say their modern name, though. I only have their modern name written down, and I will panic so much if you say their old name, especially because I need to be marking things down in rhythm as well.
Yeah.
And lastly, I've already determined which of you will go first for each question, based on who I think has the better odds of knowing more. Spoilers, Evan has every NFL question, Micah has every NBA question.
What a shocker. We make things easy.
But the initial countdown for each question will start from 5, not from 3. That way you have a little bit more time to think about it.
Okay, and just we say it on go.
You say it on go.
And then it counts down, and that's how much many seconds we have to say it, right?
No, that's how many seconds until the next person goes.
Gotcha, okay.
You have to finish your answer before 2.
Gotcha, okay.
I gave you a little bit of leeway, but I'm not going to give you much because the other person has to adapt to what you say. All right, so we just ran a practice round for them so they can get more familiar with the rules, and now we are going to continue. One more thing that I forgot to mention. Part of the inspiration for this format was trying to make it so that every round matters a lot, because you can theoretically score a lot of points in a single round. I'm hoping that the last round still matters. Something that I did to ensure this, the number of correct answers in each category creeps up each round.
Cool.
So theoretically, the questions are harder early on, but more opportunities for points later on, and the stress might be a little higher too, because if you fuck it up on the very first one, your opponent can run forever.
Micah, good luck.
Good luck to you, buddy.
All right, let's go.
All right, so the first question, Evan will start after I've read it. It is NFL positions that have won an MVP award. You need to be specific on position group, not side of the line. So, for example, offensive tackle, not left tackle, not offensive line. Evan, in 5, 4, 3, 2.
QB.
Yep.
Wide receiver.
No, Evan, run the table.
God damn it.
Running back.
Safety.
Nope. This was a difficult one.
I was going to say.
I am shocked. So here's the list. Evan scores 1 point that round. Fullback was the first position to ever win it.
God, I thought about it. I almost took it.
A kicker's won it?
A kicker won it in a shortened season.
Was it at least Justin Tucker?
It was not Justin Tucker.
Probably pre-Super Bowl era.
Also, the only linebacker to ever win it was obviously Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, duh.
And then defensive tackle was one that I probably would have missed as well. It was a shockingly difficult question for how simple it was. But yeah.
Great.
This next one, Micah, you will start after it's been read. Teams that the Boston Celtics have defeated in the NBA Finals. Micah, you're taking over in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Lakers.
Yep.
Utah Jazz.
No. Micah on the table.
Portland.
No. Yeah, this was a tough one. Also, partially because two of these teams now reside in the East. The Hawks and the Bucks were both Western Conference teams when they beat them. Also, the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Hawks were the first three that happened during the massive run for Bill Russell. The Suns, the Bucks, and the Rockets all happened somewhat later. So no points that round. But plenty of opportunities to catch up in the future.
1 point insurmountable.
It is impossible to beat this. Evan.
All right.
You will be taking this round for NFL. It is teams that have beaten Tom Brady in the playoffs. You will answer your first in 5, 4, 3, 2.
New York Giants.
Yep.
Eagles.
Yep.
New York Jets.
Yep.
Seahawks.
No. Run the table, Evan.
Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
Oh, really?
Big Ben was one of those guys.
Yeah. So, fun fact, there are 9 teams that have beaten Tom Brady in the playoffs. There are 12 teams who have played him and not won. It's insane. The teams are the Broncos, the Giants, who are the only 2 with winning records against him in the playoff. That might not be true. I think the Eagles also are 1-0.
Yeah.
But then also the Ravens, Cowboys, Jets, Rams, Titans, and Colts.
I knew it was one of those NFC North teams. I was between the Steelers and the Ravens.
So Evan earns 1 more point that round.
Let's go, baby.
There are 8 total questions. We're through 3. Micah, you are going to take this next question, and I think you'll like it.
I hope so.
Teams that the Trailblazers have beaten in a 7-game series. It has to be 7 games. Micah, in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Clippers.
Yep.
Denver Nuggets.
Yep.
Houston.
Yep.
Thunder.
Yes, sorry. You're good.
Lakers.
Yes. We'll wait till the next count.
Okay, cool. Clippers.
He already said that.
Okay.
Micah, run it.
Minnesota.
No. We got a little bit behind the timer there, but I was not paying enough attention to know who was at fault. I
He
apologize.
started it.
The answers are the Nuggets, the Lakers, the 76ers, who we learned about last time that trivia happened, the Spurs, Suns, Jazz, Rockets, Clippers, and Thunder. Once again, 0 points this round. But I promise the questions get easier and scarier as we go on. Okay. Except for this next one.
Bastard.
Evan, your question is, teams with a winning record in the Super Bowl, that is more wins than losses in specifically the Super Bowl, in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Patriots.
Yep.
Packers.
Yep.
Steelers.
Yep.
Cowboys.
Yep.
Ravens.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Chiefs.
Yep.
49ers.
Run the table. He was late.
Dolphins.
No.
I said it on 2. What? I said it.
You have to say it before 2 is the rule.
Well, I finished it before 2. But okay, whatever.
The correct teams are the Buccaneers, Ravens, Saints, Packers, Steelers, Chiefs, Cowboys, Commanders, Raiders, Jets, Giants, 49ers, and Patriots.
I feel robbed.
I promise I was watching it closely. You were late. Micah,
Yeah,
it is still 0-2 right now.
I'm aware.
You really need to pick it up.
I know.
You are losing in trivia overall. You are the worst
Wow, okay,
of any.
Sound like my parents.
3 questions left. Micah, your question to start is current NBA teams that have more playoff absences than playoff appearances. You answer in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hornets.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. Pelicans.
Yep.
Kings.
Yep.
Pacers.
No. We're on the table.
Blazers.
No.
They went. Do they?
Yeah.
They have one of the best
I am-
playoff appearance percentages
Yeah,
in the NBA.
I know.
They surprised me a little bit. And what also surprised me is the fact that so many of these teams are still terrible. The Warriors is one that, like, in hindsight,
No,
like,
Raptors, Pelicans.
Raptors as well, Pelicans. But then you have the Magic, the Cavs, the Kings, Wizards, Hornets, Grizzlies, Clippers, Timberwolves, who most of these teams are still bad today, and it kind of hurts.
I should have gotten so dumbass.
All right,
2 more questions.
2 more questions. Next one is Evan NFL question. This one is NFL players who have a 5,000 plus yard season, including passing, rushing, and receiving. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Peyton Manning.
Yep.
Josh Allen.
Yep.
Eli Manning.
No. We're on the table.
Lamar Jackson.
No.
That's a tough one, man.
It was, yeah. So many of these players were because of passing alone. Like,
Yeah.
Lamar was like 300 yards short
Yeah.
in his amazing rushing season.
Jesus.
But you have 15 players. Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Jameis Winston is a real shocker to me. Ben Roethlisberger, Justin Herbert, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Dante Culpepper, Matthew Stafford, Dan Marino, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck. Matt Ryan, another surpriser to me.
Right off the bat, I had Tom Brady in my head, and when it came to me the second time, I couldn't think of his name. It's too stressful.
I told you.
It's so tough because, like, no one's thrown for 5,000 before, have they? It's all, like, in the 4,000s. So, like, it's hard to think of the guys that have done that and then also would have the rushing yards because, like, so many of these guys on these lists, like, you don't think of Tom Brady rushing for 400 yards in a season or Drew Brees.
I was tempted to give you this hint. 9 players have thrown
Have they?
for
Oh,
5,000.
have they? That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate you for not.
So, yeah, the top 9 passers
yeah,
in
Drew
league
Brees
history.
have done it, yeah.
All right.
Jameis Winston did it on just passing yards. He added some on the ground too, but the last question, score 2-0. Micah,
All right.
this might be the easiest question. Evan, you need to not be eliminated early.
Yeah.
NBA players who have multiple MVP awards.
Okay.
Micah, you begin in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Jokic.
Yep.
Jordan.
Yep. Oh, sorry, no.
LeBron.
Sorry, yes.
Wait. What?
Keep going.
Okay. Kareem.
Yep.
Curry.
Yep.
Wait. You're throwing.
You're gonna
Hakeem.
go. You timed out and no. Micah, run
Dude,
the table.
okay, you can't do that. Like,
Micah, run the table.
My goodness.
You're out.
Yeah, I know.
like, dude, you did. What the hell was that, man?
You spent too long thinking about what the hell that was, and
But still, like, that just threw.
it was a mistake.
I mean, like, I still won, but still, like, that just threw me off so bad that you said no, and then I had to figure out what the timing was.
Like I said, this is stressful for me too. I'm having to look at a list of names and quickly find them.
You had to check for Michael Jordan?
I'm pretty sure he only got 2. He's one of those weird cases that, like, fatigue wrecked him. But, yeah. Evan, calmest under pressure. Congratulations on the win.
Barely.
Michael Jordan, Bill Russell, LeBron James, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Larry, Magic, Moses, Malone, Jokic, Antetokounmpo, Curry, Duncan, Nash, Malone, and, of course, Bob Pettit.
All right, cap things off here with quick run through Sportsbook Showdown. Micah, your first bet.
Yeah, it is. And all right, it is the Cavaliers, and this is on Thursday's NBA slate. It is Cavs beating the Magic, the Knicks beating the 76ers, the Suns beating the Mavericks, and ultimately the one that will lose, because I always am wrong when I bet for or against the Bulls, Celtics beating the Bulls.
Awesome. Yeah, for my first bet of the week, I'm going with the Texans, the team that I've been lauding today, to win the Super Bowl next year. Plus 2,500, 2 units.
A weird way to pronounce the Packers. All right, my first
I don't
bet.
think I did pronounce the Packers.
I'm also doing a Thursday NBA slate parlay. I'm taking the Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, Nuggets, and Kings to win on Thursday. Plus 313, 2 units on that. Micah, back to you.
My next bet is Caitlin Clark and the rest of her teammates to win the NCAA women's tournament at plus 850, putting 2 units on it.
Now let's go UConn. Woo!
Nah, let's go Buffs. Because I've got the CU Buffaloes. And by the way, I was the first one of us to pick a basketball championship for NCAA women's.
I didn't look at your bets beforehand.
Yeah, whatever. Dominant season so far. A couple of tough losses to top 10 teams, but they are like one of the most complete rosters in the league, and I think that they deserve better than plus 3,000, 2 units.
I like it. All right, I'm betting on soccer. I'm taking Atletico Madrid to win the Champions League. They are my favorite La Liga team, taking them at plus 2,800, 2 units. And why are they my favorite? Because they have a bear.
Fair enough. My final bet, if you remember, I once said that the Suns are going to win the championship. Fully throwing that out the window and expanding my options and saying that the Boston Celtics are going to beat the Timberwolves in the NBA Finals. Plus 3,000, putting a unit on it.
That should be probably be better than plus 3,000, I agree. And I'm going for one that should be better than minus 1,500. I ran out of good bets. This is a tough week. Nuggets are beating the Wizards this week. Yeah.
Woo! For me, once again, betting on soccer, I'm picking Ollie Watkins to be the top Premier League goal scorer for this year at plus 1,400. 1 unit down on that. He plays for my favorite team, Aston Villa, and he has been dominant this year.
Why did you use the Sacramento Kings logo?
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate it. Mike, take us away.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Derek White is going to be the Finals MVP.
Holy shit.
I like that.
What are the odds on him right now?
Plus too many thousands.
Good night, everyone.